Welcome, this is Ignis channel, and I am Ignis. We have some great things to go over today. I made a PowerPoint presentation, and I haven't done this much work in a while, so we'll see how it goes. And this slideshow, I originally made it for a church, but yeah, we'll use it for this video. No missing out, right? Let's not miss out on anything. And yeah, I'm a big weapons advocate. When asked what kind of guns should civilians be owned, we got an army guy pulling an artillery shell. Fun fact, you can actually own artillery pieces. You have to get like special tax stamps and stuff, but yeah. And then I have an interesting video for you guys about a Yankee. And yeah, let's pause this. And so right here we have basically an anti-ICE riot going on.
You know what? Go ICE! Go ICE! Go ICE! Why is that?
Because you're a fucking asshole. Get out of here.
I know I'm an asshole, but this is freedom of speech,
Good
right?
for you. Good for you.
Hey,
So
fucking hands off of me.
All right, there's more to that video, but I don't want to go too far into it because I could get copyright strikes and everything. And here's some comments on the Facebook channel here. It says, oh, this was great. Someone buy this guy an ice cold beer. It just depends where you see this video. There's a lot of love for it. But yeah, you got this Yankee here standing against a bunch of liberals. And guess what? He starts going and then they start calling for like safe space or safety team, right? And as soon as they don't get their way, they want to enforce borders. And it's there's a lot of hypocrisy here. And all these veterans over here have betrayed God in their oath. And you got one man standing among 1,000 against the bureaucratic scum that's out there today. And yeah, let's go on to the next slide here. All right. So Israel's deliverance. When Israel was in Egypt for 400 years, God delivered them out of Egypt. And there's like this secret, right? There's this secret in Exodus and Numbers because that kind of summarizes the story of God delivering Egypt or delivering Israel out of Egypt. Two, most pastors, priests, or missionaries don't want you to know this. I'm being a little facetious here. And a little hint, remember the 12 spies. And out of that whole generation, I think there's over 1 million people during that time. Only 2 people entered the promised land. What kind of people are they? I can tell you the 2 names. One of them was Joshua and one of them was Caleb. They were warriors or spies, right? These 2 people out of that whole generation entered the promised land. Is because during the time of test, of war, only 2 stood and entered the promised land. I'm sorry, pastors and preach, you didn't cut it this time. So I'm giving a little bit of favor to all you warriors out there. All right, so I'm going over some stuff here today because I've had some good fathers in my life or some good influences, and there's a lot of, I guess you could say, men that didn't really have fathers. So the scriptures say, give honor to whom honor is due. And one of them is my Uncle Dennis. He was an Army Ranger. And as I grew up, he shared the scriptures to me and didn't let me become a simp or a fake white knight like we have, or a libtard like we have today. And yeah, that's a picture of him and his wife, Uncle Dennis. And oh, that picture on the left, he did with AI, so he doesn't look like that anymore. But yeah, so he was an Army Ranger. There's him in his dress uniform. Isn't it a different time? You know, it was a while ago. I love the picture and everything. It says so much about the time frame when he was in. So one of the pastors that me and my Uncle Dennis like is John MacArthur. And what do we see here? It says women pastors and women preachers are the most obvious evidence of churches rebelling against the Bible, not just against the Bible, but also God. And because of my uncle, and he's a Baptist preacher, John MacArthur, and because of all these good influences in my life, I didn't let feminism deceive me. And God is searching for men who don't compromise. And I've kind of stated in a few earlier videos on how many men have compromised. And there's Psalms that talk about how we do not compromise with evil. And God has a divine order, and we're supposed to respect and honor that order and follow that, right? So as written in scriptures, women are not to be pastors. And today we're supposed to live by example in the church, and the church is supposed to lead by example. And all the church is doing is trying to blend in with the world. And God created the church to shine, right? Not to blend in with the world, but to stand out. And what caused the fall of man? I have another hint for you guys. Hint: Adam and Eve. What advice did Adam follow? So at the fall of mankind, Adam decided to follow the advice of his wife, or what his wife was doing instead of obeying God, right? So we see this conflict going throughout all history because men aren't standing up and following God. Instead, they're following their wife, and which is backwards. We're not supposed to be doing that, right? There's an order: Christ, man, and then woman, when in the authority structure. And then Isaiah chapter 3. This is a chapter of God's judgment. Listen, it's a chapter of God's judgment against Judah. So this is offenses that God has with Israel, right? So here it says, youth oppress my people and women rule over them. So I'm not the only one that believes this. I'm going to go through some other content that shows that women shouldn't be like judges, and they shouldn't be in combat, and all these other things. But this is a sign of a fall of a nation when women start taking positions of authority and places of men. And this is a big problem that we have. And in the church, we should lead by example. Instead, the church is just almost an act of judgment because they're rebelling against God and how the church is supposed to function. All right. So like I said, God of order, we got Pete Hegseth. Yeah, he's been a champion, right? No more pronouns, no more dudes in dresses. We're leaving wokeness and weakness behind. We're done with that crap, right? And women cannot fulfill certain combat roles. And guess what? I've had a combat veteran who's had men die in combat because of DEI stuff. I did a podcast on this if you want to watch it later. But also God has called men to fight in battle, to give up his life as Christ gave his life for the church, not the other way around, right? That's why we fight instead of women. All right, father-in-law. So the CRC, Christian Reformed Church, just had a split. And the church has finally decided to actually preach what the word says, that homosexuality is a sin. We have to stand firm on what God says is right and true. And he has a pastor friend in the CRC church that has two daughters who are pastors too. Guess who's kept pitching the biggest fit about this? He is. And no wonder, because he's a compromising, two-faced, backstabbing liar in the church. And he's used the church for his own prerogative and own agenda and dishonored God and not followed his word on how the church is supposed to function. So some of you so-called leaders, since you have dishonored God, he's going to dishonor you. You reap what you sow. God is not mocked. And there's another scripture in Psalms how people think little of God and he will despise you, those of you who think little of God. And a lot of these pastors have thought very little what God has commanded us to do. And all right, so next slide. All right, so these are some of my references. So I work in the church quite a bit, and I'm always getting attacked by overeducated bureaucratic, self-righteous pricks in the college institution. They think they know what's best. And there's quite a few sources out there that back me up. Here's another guy. He's called Legion of Men. He has a lot of common sense. And I'm going to click on this so we can watch his video.
For women, and take a guess at which countries were the most woke, had the most crime, the most criminals running free, rampant violence on the streets. They were the countries with the highest percentage of female judges. Women can't be judges. Like, it's such a controversial thing, but...
All right, so he's reviewing another video. I'm going to start there. It's this video right here, but you heard it from him, right? And you've heard it from me. I'm a Christian, but he has over 618,000 subscribers. So a lot of times these college educated pricks will act like I'm the only one that thinks that way, right? But the scriptures have made it clear on how we're supposed to govern the nation and how the church is supposed to work and how the family is going to work. I'm not sure. I don't remember his name, but I'm just going to say Legion of Men. I don't know if he's Christian or not, but he has a lot of common sense on how the family should function, how relationships should function, and how we are supposed to lead as men. And women, no, they can't be judges. And of course, I'm going to get attacked by a bunch of fake white knights and simps, and he talks about the same thing. And in the church, especially by pastors and missionaries. And it's a big problem. All right, now let's go on to the next slide. All right, so another resource here, Matt Walsh. He's actually a Catholic, and I really like this guy. He's another one of my sources, and I try to preach along some of these sources' same perspectives. But I'm not alone. That's kind of like what I'm trying to tell some of you guys. And so recently we had this woman here who called a black guy, I think he was a Somalian, the N-word. And right here, the death of free speech. And guess what? Who was the one that took the supposed victim's side, took the wrong side, and also broke the law? A woman judge. And so we see here Matt Walsh kind of exposing how bad things are becoming in America.
Brains are hardwired to make
And so here's your woke liberal woman judge. I don't know. The last few years, women have been, so many are becoming judges. And this is a sign of God's judgment against America. And we got to reorder things. And we see people and men finally standing up to the call and exposing the stupidity of this. So this woman right here, she's kind of a tat brat, but she was attacked by a Somalian, or a Somalian took something from one of her kids, another kid, and then she called him the N-word, which probably wasn't really necessary. But this woman is getting all this judgment against this judge, and now she has to pay so much money and do community service. And this Somalians raped people, or raped a woman, and they totally excuse his. So you see a total imbalance of justice happening now in America. And the people, these liberals are really destroying our country. I would like to listen to some more of what Matt Walsh says here, but if you can, I would watch this whole video here. And Matt Walsh does a really good job of exposing the stupidity of judges today in America. And Trump's been fighting these people. All right, another one of my sources, Louder with Crowder. He's another pretty conservative champion. I don't know if he's Christian. I think he is. I'm pretty sure. But he's another one of my sources. And Louder with Crowder says here, Trump just nuked one of the biggest scams in American education. So Trump is doing a lot of good things, but the liberals don't want you to know that. And some of the conservatives also. It's kind of sad. I'm going to click on this link right here.
Graduates.
Okay, we kind of missed that little excerpt there. So this is what the professional victims want to say. What Trump's doing is limiting money for certain college professions, requires programs to prove graduates earn more than high school graduates. Do not harm provision. So like this is actually a very good thing.
More than high school graduates.
Banks right now go like, all right, I'll loan you $50,000 because Uncle Sam's going to make up another $50,000. Wait a second, Uncle Sam's not covering the extra $50. You're not getting my loan. Why? Because you can't pay it back. There goes the idea of predatory lending.
I like what he said here in predatory lending. Like some people go to college and they think like these loaners that loan money to you are your friends, and it's a long story, the education system, but they don't care if you actually get a job when you get out of college, as long as they're getting that money, right?
This could do away with all of it. This is something that I can't believe has been glossed over by a lot of people. When you think of the mechanisms of Marxism, the indoctrination in this country, right, where you have an entire generation, people under the age of 30, I think over half of them would vote for a socialist candidate in the United States. What do you think are the primary drivers of that? I've always talked about the media, entertainment, education, industrial complex. It's those three: media, entertainment, education. And that is by design. So when people say, what do you get for your vote? Did you get what you voted for? Well, on immigration, yes, in contrast. Everything? No. On education, I liked what we saw with the student loans reversal from Biden. But this is way bigger. The idea that the federal government is basically no longer going to write a blank check for useless degrees. That means a lot of the humanities, a lot of the liberal arts, a lot of the creative arts. Our entire educational system, and even the tenure of a lot of professors, is predicated on the idea that, well, Uncle Sam's going to write a check, so let's just have you here in perpetuity where we can indoctrinate you forever. And the federal government, this administration, is the first one to say, you know what? We're not doing that anymore. So in case you've forgotten how bad it can get, here are the lunatics on campus destroying America, and they'll be building your roads and designing your planes in the future.
I made it.
All right, I'm going to stop him there. If you want, you can watch his whole video. But yeah, I take the similar stance as Crowder, and guess what? Crowder has 1.34 million subscribers. So I've been preaching some of the same messages. And there's a lot of Americans who agree with him here. It's obvious. And if I'm preaching this also, then I get attacks, right? The same Karens are in the church, Karens and Kevins that are in the church as they are everywhere. And we're supposed to be different, right? As Christians and following God. And this is one thing that Trump, he's delivering on his promises, God's promises, I would say, and draining the swamp. And they have a lot of the college professors have been waging war against God. And finally, we have a ruler who is plowing away for God's kingdom. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so louder with Crowder again. So this is one of the last slides here. So I go to UBF, it means University Bible Fellowship, and they kind of focus on college students. And guess what? I get attacked by quite a few bunch of them. And so here in this YouTube video, Louder with Crowder, this is the title of his YouTube video. Elon Musk is an Islamophobe. And actually, this is just a bait to get people to click on his YouTube channel. If you actually click on the link and listen to him, he's actually saying the opposite. This is like the liberals' perspective of Elon Musk, and he's just like going over it. And actually, Crowder is in full support of what Musk is saying. And I do the same thing with my YouTube channels. In fact, I've made a few statements that are totally inaccurate, but I was just showing the title is what liberals call me. A lot of liberals call me a wife beater. They call me, now they got a new, I'm a sexual harasser. I didn't even know it, right? So I have some of these labels on my YouTube video, and guess what? I got a worthless social worker, posh lawyers attacking me basically on a lure, right? Oh, you're not using safe words. We can't accept you in our church society anymore. And it's just the entitlement and pettiness that I experience at church. It just resembles what I was explaining to you in Isaiah chapter 3, pettiness, about having like these young rulers and stuff, like butchering stuff that it's just way overboard, right? And if you think of like fishing, right? What if I use a lure, rubber lure, to catch fish? Is that being a bad Christian because I'm using a fake lure, and should I be banished from the church, right? Expelled? And you got a church leader that's basically doing that to me with my YouTube channels and trying to make me look mentally ill and all this other stuff just because of some labels, right? And I'm so much more than what everybody else wants to define me as. In fact, there's a scripture that says, "He who began a good work in you will finish it until the day of Christ Jesus." So God is the author of my life. He's the narrator of my life, right? And I'm going to click on Elon Musk's video here. Or not Elon.
Insert X.
Elon, or Louder with Crowder's video. And yeah, he goes over a lot of good things in this video here too. And I encourage you to watch it. He also is very fed up with social workers and how they've destroyed this nation. A lot of them are in this woke stuff, and the psychologists are too. And it's, I mean, Matt Walsh has kind of gone over some of this stuff too and exposed the hypocrisy and stupidity. And that same hypocrisy and stupidity exists in the church too. And I confront it just like some of the rocks in our society.
Number of witnesses here to willfully admit to rape for rape to actually be charged. Otherwise, she will be punished. Insert view here.
Okay, so he's talking about the laws in Islam and how they aren't compatible with United States. We could go from the beginning here, and you could see this interview between Elon Musk and, of course, probably the Economist. She's a liberal, and she's trying to paint Elon Musk as an Islamophobe, and he's not, right? He's just taking the quote of the liberal and stating it out there. In fact, Louder with Crowder is in very much a support of what he thinks, and he's not an Islamophobe, just the very opposite, right? And I just love everything Crowder, a lot of things that he says. And I could go over this, but we're getting kind of long on this video. Should I keep going? We're at 22 minutes. I think I'm going to postpone that for now. And let's go back to the next slides. All right. Okay, so here's some, let me move some stuff here. Oops. Shepherds aren't sheepish, right? Right here we have a picture on the left here of David slaying a giant, and his head's right there. So there are different kinds of shepherds. Sometimes God uses rulers to enforce justice and expose evil. And when God leads a war, he sends his best. So when I go fight war, I want to give God my best. And we have been fighting a lot of things for a while now. And then here's another thing on here I like a lot that I found on Facebook. I am not Jesus. God has called us each to a special purpose. And right here, you kind of see a soldier here with NVG goggles, flipping tables. So soldiers are a form of Jesus enforcing his justice. Most people will hate that idea and they'll say, oh, I'm twisting the scriptures. But as I keep reading here, God has called us each to a special purpose that may not look like Jesus' life, right? Example, Jesus never had kids. Does that mean we all can't have kids and get married, right? So I get all these Karens and Kevin Pastor remarks. That's not what Jesus would do. Well, that's right. I'm not Jesus, right? Would you tell Gideon to turn the other cheek? So the scriptures say God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And he has different purposes for different people. If you're a king and you're supposed to be protecting your people, you can't tell a king that he should be turning a cheek when he's specifically there to bear the sword and punish evildoers. And you get a lot of these Karens and stuff that don't really understand the scriptures. All right, and the last slide. So every man dies, right? There's people dying all the time. Not many live, you know? I want to live like it's expressed in the scriptures. Let us live one day as it were 1,000 years. I know we're supposed to die to ourselves, and a lot lately, as I've been getting older, I've been saying, one day I'm going to die and it's not going to matter anymore. But I feel like that's what cowards say, you know? I want to live for Jesus in full faith, right? None of this half foot in and half foot out, but my life's fully living for Christ Jesus, and I've died to self. That can take a long time. Everybody's got a different calling. Some of us live long lives, some of us short lives, but God's the author of our faith. So thank you all for listening, and the Lord be with you.